Galway against Mayo is obviously the pick of the football qualifiers this weekend, and considering how dominant Mayo were for a number of years on Galway, it's incredible to think now that they've a 7 games losing streak to Galway at this point as well. Plenty of changes for Mayo. Aidan O'Shea is in. He left with a bit of a moon boot, I think, after the last game against Armagh. He's okay to start. Meanwhile, Galway have a host of injuries at midfield, which I'll get to in a second. Lee Keegan, he's out, and God knows for how long, with Matthew Rowan already out, and Diarmuid O'Connor, the captain, as well. So they're dropping like flies with Mayo, and it's obviously not all down to age. Lee Keegan is hitting the 30 mark soon enough, but Matthew Rowan and Diarmuid O'Connor are young players, so it's not a case of legs catching up with these injuries. It's just unfortunate, and maybe they're absolutely killing each other in training, who knows. But Keegan is obviously out. Andy Moran, he was taken off in the first half against Armagh, really didn't happen for him, didn't look himself at all. Conor Loftus is out, and Mikey Murray is out. Now, Cillian O'Connor has come in, so that means that Loftus is free to taking duties. That's going to be covered there. They need O'Connor to hit the ground running. Stephen Cohn comes in the back line. Kevin McLaughlin is in, and Michael Plunkett as well, who quite impressed me during the league, especially down in Tralee for that league game against Kerry as well. Cillian O'Connor, as I said, is back in. Damien Comer isn't named to start for Galway, and of course both teams probably need a bit of inspiration at this point of the season, and the fact that Mayo have an opportunity to start O'Connor, whereas Damien Comer apparently looked very rusty when he came back for Down last week, so maybe they don't think it's worth the gamble at this point. Martin Farrer, who's been very impressive for Corofin over the years, he does start. Other than that, Kevin Walsh spoke about the torture it is at midfield at the moment. He spoke about Cian Darcy's hand injury, Kieran Duggan, he said won't be back for this one. Fintona Corrine has a hamstring injury. Tom Flynn and Peter Cook are under pressure with foot injuries. Paul Conroy's only back training recently after his broken leg last year. You'd imagine he's a mile off the pace just yet. Michael Daly's starting at midfield, so you generally think of him as a forward. He's named at midfield. Other players that are in the midfield around him, Tom Flynn is midfield, despite being named as an injury concern. Johnny Heaney is in the half forward line, as is Peter Cook, who played midfield for the under-21s, if I remember correctly. I'm sure they'll flood the midfield, leave the likes of Anthony O'Lee, Farher, Ian Burke up front, and Shane Walsh maybe at the number 11 position to collect the ball and drive forward with it. One guy who really impressed me for Mayo last week was Fionn McDonough, young enough player, scored a nice goal early on against Armagh, added a point not long after either, and as I said, Michael Plunkett as well, and having a fairly experienced half back line beside him otherwise with Paddy Durkin and Colin Boyle as well. Meath against Clare, I would imagine that both teams will be giving themselves a fair chance at this one. Clare won away to Westmeath last week by the minimum of margins. John Heslin getting black carded early on. Hard to say how much that was worth to Clare, but he was a big blow as well because he's a very quality forward. Last 3 games that these teams have had against each other, Meath have won, and 2 of the 3 quite convincingly. The league game one this year won 12-17, not too much in that one of course. But the 2 previous years, 21 points to 7 is a bit of a beating, as is 319-113 as well. I saw a good stat from Peter Sweeney, the journalist online. He was saying of the stats since the qualifiers came in, that of the only 4 of 18 Leinster runners-up managed to recover from losing that provincial final to win their next game in the qualifiers as well. So after scoring just 4 points, Meath are obviously under the gun here. James McEntee and Ronan Ryan, they're not in the defence, so there's possibly injuries there. Park Harnan has come in anyway for 1. Meath going to be under pressure from that point of view to pick it up. But for Colin Collins, bit of momentum now in the back door. His first year in charge, he got Clare out of Division 4, that was 2014, and in 2020 next year, that'll be their 4th season in a row in Division 2, so that is great work considering where they're coming from. Kevin Hartnett, he's recovered from injury against Kerry, and he's back in the lineup, which is a big boost. Next game then, Laois against Cork. It's the first ever championship meeting between the teams, which I was surprised by. It's in Semple Stadium, so you'd imagine that would suit Cork more because they've played there against Tipperary plenty of times. the winner the following week goes away to Dublin, which is quite the reward for winning this game. Tom Clancy comes in at centre back for Cork as well. Paul Kerrigan, he drops out of the team. Kevin O'Driscoll goes in. I think Kerrigan probably going to suffer a little bit for that clip where he was chasing back on, I think it was Tom O'Sullivan, or was it Graham? It was one of the O'Sullivans anyway, and he seemed to just stop up midway through the run as well. So I'm sure the optics of that weren't great, and Ronan McCarthy, whether it's that or an injury, he's made the decision anyway. For Cork, it's quite a turnaround to go from a 17-point loss to Kerry last year to pushing them quite close this year, and maybe if their composure was a little bit better and their shooting certainly, which will need to improve, and shot selection, they could have caused a shock there. But 12 months ago, losing by 17 points to Kerry, 16 points then to Tyrone just a short time after. So how much can they change? We'll find out here. They will expect to win this game. Ross Munley starting for Laois. She's always the name referred to, but 36 years of age, scored 2 points the last day. Still a great footballer after all these years. Cork will expect to win that one, and a trip up to Dublin next week would be yeah, you'd imagine they're going to take a bit of a beating there, but I mean that's something to worry about on another day. They need to get the games against the elite level teams if they're going to improve and get back to where realistically they should be. Cavan against Tyrone, no teams named, and it's after midnight on the night before the game, Friday night. Cavan haven't beaten Tyrone in the championship since 1983. The Tyrone have won 6, and there's been 2 draws ever since then. In the league game that they played this year, 115 to 9 points was the margin of victory for Tyrone. And considering Cavan lost the Ulster final to Donegal and lost it fairly comprehensively for most of the game, you'd imagine this has got to be Tyrone. They have a couple of wins under the belts at this stage, and they seem well equipped to beat teams that are a little bit lower than the top ranked teams. Very, very poor against Donegal, exposed when they tried to be more ambitious. They've gone back, reverted to type, and I can see them getting through this game.